The fact that we are able to put our launcher on the south pole of moon, the fact that we are moving at a faster pace from being a fifth economy to the third largest economy, we are afraid to question that.
Yes.
But today we want to encourage our students to stand up and question the status quo. And that is how you can create a new knowledge.
Yes.
It is essential to teach our students in our own Indian languages. Otherwise, they will become foreigners in our own country. Our teachers have to become content creators using this digital technology.
Welcome to the Abhijit Chavda podcast. My guest today is Dr. M. Jagadesh Kumar. Dr. Kumar is the chairman of the UGC, the University Grants Commission, and he is the man behind the NEP, the National Education Policy 2020. Please subscribe and enjoy the conversation. Dr. Jagadesh Kumar, welcome to the podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Most welcome, sir. So, sir, you are the chairman of the UGC. Let's start with a very basic concept. What is the UGC? What is the purpose it serves and how does it function?
Well, UGC stands for University Grants Commission.
Yes, sir.
It is a regulator which coordinates, determines and maintains the standards of higher education across the country.
Okay.
And it was established in 1956 through an act of parliament. And since then, at that time there were only very few universities and very few colleges. But today we have nearly 1150 universities across the country and close to about 45,000 colleges offering undergraduate, postgraduate and PhD programs. So from time to time what we do is we bring out regulations. We also bring out guidelines and circulars to make sure that in all the higher educational institutions, the standards of education are maintained. So that is the main function.
Okay.
And in addition to that, UGC also promotes research in the university system.
I see.
So it gives from time to time, it announces several schemes. And as part of that, we fund young faculty members and senior faculty members. And we also give close to about 11,000 fellowships
I see.
for carrying out PhD in various disciplines across the country. So basically, these are the functions of UGC.
Okay. So all the universities and colleges in India come under the ambit of the UGC?
Yes,
Okay.
That's true.
Right. So one of the hot topics always is that we have so few universities in the top 500 globally.
Correct.
So what is being done to improve the situation?
You see, if you want to make India a self-reliant country,
Yes.
It is important that we strengthen our university system.
Absolutely.
To become centers of excellence.
Yes.
Because that is where young minds, they are driven by curiosity. They are, trained to be good learners, so that ultimately, using their creativity and innovativeness, they can come up with new technologies, and then that can help our country to become a stronger economic power,
Yes.
a technological leader. In order to do that, how do we train our students?
Yes.
There are two important components. One is that what is the ultimate objective of education? If you think about that, there is only one simple answer. That is to enable our students to imagine and convert that imagination into reality. You look at the lives of any great scientist in the world or any great entrepreneur in the world. They are great thinkers.
Yes.
So the ability to think and imagine is the first step.
Yes.
And then how do you convert that into reality? How do you build a big organization or a big corporation or run a big government? So how do you do that? For this, the first step is education. But in addition to that, there are other things that are required for a person who is educated to be successful.
Right.
I'll give you two examples.
Yes.
One from India and one from outside. Recently, there was a huge turmoil in OpenAI.
Yes.
The CEO was removed and so on.
Yes.
And after the entire thing settled down, Satya Nadella of Microsoft, he said one very, very important thing. He said, the greatest privilege of my job is to work with people who are driven by mission. And he also said during the last 5 days after the open AI turmoil settled down and the CEO came back, he said that I have observed people in open AI working calmly and driven by a mission in spite of whatever is happening around them. So this is an important quality. Satya Nadella is not praising the technical expertise of the people. He is praising the human qualities of the people, which brought back the situation to normalcy.
Yes.
And I will also give you another example. Recently, it was all in newspapers, and we were all anxiously waiting to save the 41 workers who were trapped in the Uttarkashi tunnel.
Yes.
And after everything is over, when these 41 workers came out successfully, the next day, when you saw the newspapers, the headlines was about the rat hole miners, how they played a critical role in opening up the last part of the tunnel and bringing them out. And also, when you look at the entire effort, the people from the administration, people from railways, people from road transport system, and the real mining experts, and these rat hole miners, all of them together worked in order to make the mission successful.
Indeed, yes.
So what does these two tell us? That it is not just only the education, becoming a great dreamer and becoming a successful entrepreneur, but you also require other human qualities.
Yes.
So providing good education, high quality education involves both these components. And as part of our reforms that we are bringing out by implementing the NEP 2020, this is what we want to provide to our students, an ecosystem where the students can think freely without fear, and they learn things by doing things, and then they also learn the qualities of leadership, the qualities of being part of a team, the ability to communicate with each other and convince when there are divergent ideas that are floating around, how do you bring a convergence so that everybody will follow your ideas and then you all move forward together with one common mission. So these are the qualities that we need to imbibe to our students. So that is why we are bringing a lot of reforms, not just only in higher education, because the higher educational institutions, where do they get the students from? They get from the school system.
Yes.
So therefore, we have to reform the school system also.
Yes.
And we are focusing on the school system. There are other agencies which focus on the school system. And then we are focusing on the higher educational system and bringing out a lot of educational reforms. And to answer your question of what about our universities, higher educational institutions finding themselves among the top universities, they are indeed there across the globe. For example, if you look at our IITs, Indian Institute of Science, and some of the best state universities and central universities, they are already highly reputed across the globe because it is our alumni who are working globally and bringing this reputation to our institutions. But when it comes to finding ourselves in the top global university rankings, we are doing very well in the last couple of years. Many more institutions are finding themselves in the top global university rankings. But finding ourselves in the global university rankings is a byproduct of our efforts in promoting excellence in our educational institutions. And promoting excellence involves providing high quality education to our students and ensuring that the capacity building of our teachers is carried out. So we are now involved during last couple of years after the National Education Policy 2020 is announced, after it is launched. Now we are involved in bringing these transformatory changes in our educational system.
Right. So you mentioned the New Education Policy 2020. Could you please elaborate on what it is and what are the changes it's bringing in?
Correct. If you look at our educational system, I'm sure all of us, we have gone through those experiences that it is too rigid and it focuses more on learning things by studying books, by listening to the teachers, and by rote learning.
Yes.
And as a result, what has happened is, although our students are talented and they are aspirational, only few of our students could actually come out of this system in spite of this rigidity and other disadvantages that we have, and they could prove themselves not only in India but globally.
Yes.
The fact that we are able to put our launcher on the south pole of moon, the fact that we are moving at a faster pace from being a fifth economy to the third largest economy. Recent reports say that by 2030, we will become third largest economy. Why is all this happening? It's because our Indians who studied in our educational system are contributing. And also when you see globally, our Indians are in top positions, be it educational institutions, or be it large corporations, or as doctors, or as engineers, as software engineers. Our Indians are shining everywhere across the globe. But that number can actually be scaled up. Many more Indians can become more innovative and more creative if we can set our educational system in the right way. The focus of NEP 2020 is primarily to create an ecosystem in our educational system so that our students have more freedom, more flexibility, and more choices. For example, if you have chosen physics in your 12th standard, perhaps you will either go to engineering or you will take up BSc Physics, MSc Physics, and then move on, maybe go to PhD Physics. There is only one route that is defined for you in our earlier education system. But in our new educational system, we are saying, all right, you have studied physics, but you want to do now commerce, or you want to do economics, or you want to do biology, you should be able to do. We want to break these boundaries, that artificial boundaries that we have built around ourselves, and say that you can go only in this route, only in this discipline. We want to break these disciplinary boundaries, because across the globe, it is well known that when students are exposed to multidisciplinary education, their perspective of the world will change.
Absolutely.
Their perspective of how to address, how to become a problem solver, how to become a solution provider, that idea will change, right? So the first aspect of the national education policy is to break these disciplinary boundaries, artificial ones.
All right.
And then the next one is to provide holistic education.
What do we mean by that?
Right. No, this is what many teachers ask me. What do you mean by holistic education? So I want to ask you, imagine yourself to be a student. Suppose I tell you that you can go to the lab and experiment things and then learn from those, or you go to a real world, interact with people and then learn yourself. Would you enjoy that? Or would you like just sitting in front of a book and then mugging things? You will like going and doing things yourself and learning yourself.
Any kid would love that.
Suppose I give you an opportunity where I put together some 10 students and I give you a problem and say, all of you together, you solve this problem, discuss with each other, brainstorm and learn. Will you enjoy that? Or I put all 10 of you in 10 different rooms and say you solve alone on your own. Which one will you prefer?
Oh, the cooperative one.
The cooperative model, right?
Yes.
That is where the peer learning will happen, because each student has different cognitive abilities and each student has a different perspective of the problem. So then all of us will discuss and then see that, okay, this is how we can solve together in a cooperative way. So peer learning is another important component of learning process.
I see.
And doing things on your own, learning by doing things is another component of education. And then let's say I give a problem and I challenge you to think critically about that problem. And then I handhold. If you are faltering at some points, I provide you a little bit of guidance so that you critically think on your own and come up with solutions. Will you not enjoy that?
Certainly.
You will enjoy that.
Yes.
So the other component of making a good learner is challenging the students to critically think. And in all this, let's say in a classroom, I come to the classroom and I spent about an hour, and most of the time I'm writing from my book, from my old notes on the blackboard, and I ask the students to take notes and then go back and study at home. On the other hand, in the 1 hour that I spend with my students, I speak with the students maybe for 10-15 minutes, guide their thoughts, but I leave them to critically think. I leave them to sit together and enjoy this peer learning. And I ask them, you go out of the class, explore yourself, come back and tell me what you have found. And my role, I limit myself as a mentor, and I speak as little as possible, maybe for 10 to 15 minutes. Will you enjoy this, or will you enjoy learning from a teacher in a very boring fashion? He keeps writing all these long equations, theories on the blackboard. Obviously, you will like the other one. So holistic education means doing all these things in order to make the student a good learner. In fact, I can tell you that when we talk about holistic learning, we think that it's some modern concept. Maybe it has come from some Western model. But there is a shloka which goes back to the Mahabharata times. This shloka tells the teacher plays only 1/4 role in providing education to the student. And 1/4 of education comes when you encourage the student to be a critical thinker. And 1/4 of education comes from peer learning. And 1/4 of education comes over a period of time by doing things through experience. And this is a shloka which goes back to thousands of years back to Mahabharata times. And throughout the time, if you look at the history of India, education is given top priority. Gurus are given, the highest position in our society. And education was imparted in the way that I am mentioning, in the holistic manner. But over a period of time, either because our country was occupied by foreign rulers and great universities were destroyed. And then the British rule came, and the education became more for producing clerks, for doing administrative work. And the NEP 2020 therefore is focusing on bringing our educational system out of this colonial mindset. And use our own Indian ethos of providing best quality holistic education to our students. So another component of NEP 2020 therefore is to build our educational system based on Indian ethos. Right?
So how do we do that?
Well, how do you do that? One of them, for example, how does one become a good learner? So now, if you look at modern cognitive science, put a child, 2-3-year-old child in a small room, and it is filled with toys, and you observe the child from a window. The child doesn't know you are observing, and observe how the child is learning. The child goes around, explores. The child is driven by curiosity. It goes and holds the objects, feels the objects, tastes them, looks at the colors. So the first step a child does is collect the information from the surroundings around you. And the child thinks about it and puts that information in the mind. It remembers, okay, this is red color, this is yellow color, this is green color. Next time, after the child observes several times, it doesn't get confused. Okay, red is red, green is green. So putting that in our long-term memory is the next step in the learning process. And the third one is to critically think, okay, this is a sphere. this is a rectangle. What is the difference between them? You feel and say, okay, this is how the sphere feels like. This is how the rectangle feels like. This is how a small object feels. This is how a heavy object. So there is a critical thinking associated with when you are learning the nature around you. And then you need to repeat the whole process again and again.
Yes.
So the child doesn't go around and observe things and then come back and sit. The child goes around, it says, what happens if I break this? What happens if I throw this? What happens if I scribble something on this white wall around me? The child is doing it again and again. So cognitive science describes the learning process using these 4 steps. Collecting the information, putting this in the long-term memory, and then critically thinking about it and repeating the whole process. And you will be surprised to know when I say that our Indian educational process, our Indian learning system, which goes back to thousands of years, Adi Shankara said what it takes to be a good learner. And very beautifully he explained, which mirrors what the modern cognitive science says. He said there are 4 steps to be a good learner. And what are they? In those days, in simple Sanskrit, he said, Patanam, Mananam, Chintanam and Sankirtanam.
Okay.
First you have to study. And whatever you study, Mananam, you have to remember it. Chintanam, you have to critically think about it. Sankirtanam, you have to repeat the whole process. And that is the objective of NEP 2020, based on our Indian ethos, which mirror our modern understanding of learning and education, build our educational system so that our students become efficient learners and lifelong learners. So that's the objective of NEP 2020.
Okay. Is there any plan to place more emphasis on learning in mother tongues?
You see, when children learn, when they are exploring the nature around them, there is enough research to show that if that learning happens in the mother tongue or in a language that the child is familiar with. I'll give you an example of a research. Researchers took a group of kids and then they were taught things, basic things in their own mother tongue. And after a couple of years, they were taught English. And then they took another group of students whose mother tongue was not English, and they were studying in English medium, and they reached a certain level of proficiency in their education. Let's say both the teams studied for about 10 years in their educational journey. But the first team, they studied in mother tongue initially, and later they learned English. Now, when both these teams were given a task in English, write an essay on a certain topic, they found that the kids who learned mother tongue first and then English later, they were more expressive. They could construct much more beautiful sentences in English as compared to the kids who were taught only in English. So therefore, there is no doubt, and science also tells us that students will become better learners if they study in their own mother tongue. Mahatma Gandhi, in 1928, he wrote that it is essential to teach our students in our own Indian languages, otherwise they will become foreigners in our own country. And unfortunately, during last 20 years, with our neglect of our own Indian languages, with more focus on teaching our kids in English medium, we have lost touch with our own Indian culture, Indian civilization.
Indeed.
I will ask you, how many kids today read Panchatantra in their school?
No one does.
And no one does.
Yeah.
And how many people read Mahabharata and Ramayana in their school education? It's not happening. But there are so many lessons to be learned by reading our own literature.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is in multiple Indian languages.
Yes.
You have Tirukural in Tamil. You have something else in northeastern Indian region. You have something else in other parts of India. Why can't our students learn from our own long civilizational journey through which India has gone through, and the great manuscripts that we have produced in India, is it not our responsibility to expose our students to this rich literature that we have? But how will they do if they are educated only in English?
In a foreign language.
So now when you translate, when you teach our students through a foreign language, many of the nuances
are lost in translation.
Are lost in the process.
Yes.
So that is why we are saying in the national education policy that let us give that importance to our Indian languages in our education. And at the same time, today, English has become a communication tool to communicate with the global community. So therefore, our students should also learn English as a communication tool, but not as a learning tool.
Right.
So towards achieving this objective now, we are doing several things. One, this mindset that if I cannot speak good English, or if I speak only in my Indian language, that there is some inferiority associated with that. That mindset has to be removed.
Yeah,
so now we are telling all educational institutions, if you are teaching your students in an English medium, if there are students from multiple languages, multiple regions of the country, let's say it's an IIT or it's a central university where students come from all regions of our country. But suppose I know Telugu, and a student in the classroom also knows Telugu, and the student finds it difficult to ask me a question in English. What is wrong if that student asks me a question in Telugu?
Yeah.
There should be nothing wrong.
Yes.
And the rest of the class should take it as a normal thing.
Yes.
And this is what we are trying to promote. Okay. Suppose I am multilingual, I know little bit Tamil, I know Hindi, I know Telugu, I know English. If there are 4 students who are familiar with these languages, if they find comfortable in asking a question in that language, why not they ask? So we are now asking educational institutions to promote this kind of ecosystem in the classroom itself.
Okay.
And 2, the students also require textbooks in the Indian languages.
Definitely.
Right?
Yes.
And then if students, if they are studying in English medium, I have answered one question in English, but the next question I find it difficult to answer in English. I want to write in Tamil, and I'm in a college located in Tamil Nadu, and my teachers also know Tamil. Why not I answer the second question in Tamil?
Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
So that is the question that we are asking the universities. So we have also written to all the heads of the institutions across the country that even if you are imparting education in English medium, if a student feels comfortable in writing in their own mother tongue, please let them do it.
Okay.
Because this will increase the learning outcomes. Because the student can be much more expressive in writing the answer in their own language.
Right.
So this is something that we are doing. And let me tell you, recently when we had the Northern Zone and Western Zone conference of Vice-Chancellors, and in each conference close to about 200 Vice-Chancellors participated. When we discussed about this to the Vice-Chancellors, they wholeheartedly came forward and they said, why not? We should promote in creating this kind of ecosystem in our educational institutions. The third thing that we are doing is bringing out these textbooks in Indian languages.
Okay.
And we have been discussing this with the heads of institutions. In the coming 6 months to 1 year, in major Indian languages, in about 22 Indian languages, we want to bring these textbooks in digital format, and in BA, BSc and BCom to begin with, in undergraduate programs, and later we will also bring out in the postgraduate programs, MA, MCom and MSc in different subjects, and make these digital textbooks available in a portal called eCumb. This eCumb was launched by our Honorable President of India in March this year, and these books will be available free of cost to all the students on this eCumb portal. And we have already put, AICT has brought out some textbooks in engineering discipline, and you will be surprised to know thousands of students are downloading these books.
I see.
And not only from India, but across the globe, Indian students are downloading textbooks in Indian languages. So these are some of the things that we are going to do so that the promotion of education in our Indian languages will pick up across the university system.
Right. So imparting education, for that you need teachers.
Right.
Will some of the elements of the new education policy require some retraining of the teachers?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because teachers of my generation came from a system
Yes.
where it was unheard of a student standing up in the class and questioning the status quo or questioning the authority.
Yes.
For example, a well-known theorem could be an authority, or a well-read textbook can be an authority. We are afraid to question that.
Yes.
But today we want to encourage our students to stand up and question the status quo. And that is how you can create a new knowledge.
Yes.
But the present generation of teachers are not used to that.
Indeed.
Right?
Yes.
And also, it was unheard for teachers of that generation or teachers who came from that earlier educational model on the importance of working in teams. Because today, that no solution can be found for major challenges that we are facing as a humanity unless we work in teams. So that teamwork has to be promoted right in the classroom and outside the classroom. And there is a lot of technology that needs to be introduced in our education.
Right.
When we think of using modern technology, for a typical teacher, it appears that using PPTs in the classroom, right?
Okay.
That is out of date now. There are more modern technologies now. Our teachers have to become content creators using this digital technology, not just only content consumers. So how do you build this capacity in our teachers? So to achieve that goal, recently we have launched what is known as Malaviya Mission Teacher Training Program.
Okay.
And in higher education, we have close to about 15 lakh teachers.
Okay.
And we want to provide initially 2-week-long appreciation training for the students on new pedagogical approaches, new technologies that need to be improved, and new teaching, learning techniques that need to be adopted inside the classroom, and also new assessment methods.
Okay.
Most teachers, they are not trained on how to design a question paper.
Okay.
Because we are used to using an approach of one-fits-all kind of question papers.
Yes.
Right? We know that some students are good in solving numerical problems quickly. Some students are good at writing an essay. Some students are good at giving a good lecture on what they have understood. Can we introduce all these components instead of designing one type of question paper for all the students, right? And also, can we adopt a kind of continuous learning for the students? Maybe give small homeworks, give small quizzes, engage them in the classroom. I often do it in my classroom. I ask the students to come to the stage, to the podium, and speak for 2-3 minutes on a given topic. Or if I have a huge classroom, 200 students, on left side 100 students are sitting, on the right side 100 students are sitting, I pose a question and let us see which side will come up with a question. And you can see the entire classroom getting into that task and talking to each other, a lot of noise, and then coming up with the questions. So can we make education more enjoyable to the students?
It should be.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is the task. So to achieve that task now, we are embarking on training these teachers, and training 15 lakh teachers is not a small task.
Oh, yes.
So we have a timeline of about 2.5 years to train these teachers.
Okay.
And parallelly also we are designing other programs for capacity building of these teachers. So as you rightly said, it is not just only the focusing on the students, making our students student-centric, but also capacity building of our teachers. So both have to go hand in hand.
Correct. So by when can we expect the NEP 2020 to be fully implemented across the country?
You see, improving our educational system is a journey.
It's a journey, of course.
It is not a destination that we will arrive at everything is okay now. So that is why NEP 2020 has set a goal of 2035.
Okay.
So that by then we can introduce several of these reforms, because some of these reforms can be introduced in a shorter duration, in a couple of years, and some will take longer duration. For example, currently our gross enrollment ratio is about 28.3. It is actually increasing slowly. Last year it was 27.7 or so. This year it has become 28.3.
So what is this figure, gross enrollment?
Gross enrollment ratio is in an age group 18 to 23 or so. How many students are enrolling into the educational system?
Okay.
So this is 28.3. That means many students in this age group, they need to be educated. But today we have in our educational system, right from school education to higher educational system, we have close to about 30 crores.
Okay.
In higher education system, we have 4.1 crores.
Okay.
But this is at the current rate of GER of 28.3, we have 4.1 crores.
Okay.
But we have set a goal of raising this GER to 50%.
Okay.
That means this 4.1 crore will become 8 crores, 10 crores, 12 crores in the coming years. So how do we make sure that our educational system is geared up, is prepared enough to handle this large number of students?
Yes.
So this is another thing on which we are working. So to your question that by when we will completely implement NEP 2020, 2035 is one of the deadlines that we have kept. But by then, many other new initiatives may come.
Okay.
Our NEP 2020 itself may be reviewed,
of course,
and many more other initiatives may be introduced. So it's a long journey. But one of the important things that I want to tell you, that is introduction of technology in the educational ecosystem. One of the important things that we have introduced is known as ABC. Have you heard of ABC? ABC is called the Academic Bank of Credits.
Okay.
It's a digital platform that is created, and what we are planning to do, and we have already started doing, and we need to scale it up, is assign a unique ID to every student who is part of our educational system. So this is going to be called APAR ID. APAR ID.
Okay.
So APAAR, right? APAR stands for automated, permanent, academic registry, APAR, right? Academic automated registry.
Okay.
So this APAR unique ID will be given to every student when they join in the school system. And as they move from the school system to the college to the university system, the unique ID will be carried on. Okay. And the ABC system is meant to store the learning outcomes of the students in digital form. And how do you store it? We call this a credit. Okay. The learning outcomes are quantified, and then a credit is assigned to these learning outcomes.
Okay.
So students will keep earning these credits as they move from school education to the college education. And when these credits reach a certain threshold level, when they become eligible to be given a qualification, maybe 10th class, maybe 12th class certificate, maybe an undergraduate degree, they will get this degree. Okay. And when they move from the school system to the university system, they don't have to carry any physical degree certificates or mark sheets to the next institution.
Okay.
The next institution can check the learning outcomes of the students, the credits earned, their transcripts, their certificates in a digital form, and then provide the admission.
That's fantastic.
And then as the student move to the higher education, and when they pass out, when an employer employs them, the employer also doesn't need any hard copies of the certificates. They can digitally verify the veracity of these certificates and provide employment to the students. But another important thing is that we have also introduced a new scheme called the multi-entry, multi-exit scheme.
Okay.
Suppose you are doing BA Economics. At the end of second year, you want to take a break for an year or so. Now, in the current system, if you can't come back, you are out of the system.
Yes.
And what does the society look at you? It looks at, you're a dropout, you're a failure.
Yes.
Now, we want to remove this kind of negativity associated with, short duration breaks that the students may take, either because of financial reasons or the student needs to do extra work to do well in their program. So we want to remove any negativity associated with failures. The student should be able to come back, pick up the thread, and then move forward and then get their degree. So this multi-entry, multi-exit also has another advantage to the students. Suppose I am in a tier 3 college somewhere, and in some tier 1 college, in the second year, some vacancies have come. Now, from tier 3, I can move using my ABC portal to tier 1 college and get admission in second year. Now, this has two advantages. One, in the best universities, best colleges, if the seats go vacant, that's a national wastage.
It is.
So we are avoiding that national wastage. And then for a tier 3 student, we are providing an aspirational advantage to the student to go to the best college and study. So this academic bank of credits will provide a lot of advantages to the students. Already close to about 2.1 crore students are registered on this, and we are putting every effort to make sure all the 1100 universities, 45,000 colleges are onboarded on this ABC portal so that these benefits are passed on to every student across this educational ecosystem.
Right, fantastic. Recently, one heard that there's this new scheme, this new program by which foreign universities and colleges can open up physical campuses in India. Could you please explain what that is and elaborate on that?
First of all, why do we want these foreign universities to come to India? So if you see NEP 2020, it talks about internationalization of our Indian higher education. And it has two components. One is to make India a global hub for education, to be able to attract international students into our country, and two, to provide an international dimension to our own Indian education. Encourage our Indian educational institutions to go out and set up their campuses. So let me focus on the first part. The first part, now already many institutions are looking at the possibility of establishing our campuses abroad. Now there are two reasons for this. One, we have huge Indian diaspora in many countries.
We do.
And they have a lot of respect for our Indian education. After all, they are products of our own Indian education. So they want our Indian institutions to come and set up their campuses. This is one kind of opportunity we have. The other opportunity we have is in countries like African countries. There is a lot of respect for Indian educational system, and they want us to come and set up their campuses there, so that capacity building happens in those countries. For example, IIT Delhi had a collaboration with the Ethiopian government, and I was part of that. And we used to visit Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, the capital of Ethiopia, and teach the students there. There is tremendous interest in Indian education in many of these countries. So we are now promoting already IIT Delhi, where I am a professor. IIT Delhi is now opening a campus in Abu Dhabi, and IIT Madras is opening a campus in Tanzania. Yes, where there is a large Indian diaspora, and many more IITs will follow the suit, and many more other Indian educationals will follow the suit. And this is providing one component of internationalization to our Indian education. The other one, if you look at our own history, Indians have traveled across the globe. And they have taken our culture, their knowledge, our spices to many countries across the country, across the globe. And the reverse also has happened. Nalanda, Takshila, and in many such great universities, thousands of foreign students came and studied here. And now this intermixing of global knowledge is good for everybody, because when diverse ideas, when diverse people from diverse cultures work together, think together, it will create a lot of new ideas. It will provide an opportunity to understand each other. It will improve the relations among the countries. So it has a lot of benefits.
Yes.
And it will also improve the soft power of India.
Absolutely.
If Indians can go abroad.
Absolutely.
Right? And the other component of internationalization is encouraging the foreign universities to come and set up their campuses here.
Okay.
Now, there has to be a kind of regulatory mechanism
Indeed.
To permit this.
Yes.
And the UGC has worked for the last 1 year and brought out 2 important regulations.
Okay.
As a precursor to inviting the foreign educational institutions to come to India, we came up with a regulation called Twinning Joint and Dual Degree Regulation.
Okay.
The objective of this regulation, which was announced in May 2022, is to identify foreign educational institutions and sign an MOU with them so that Indian students who are doing their degree in an Indian institution can go to that foreign institution, spend a semester or 2, or even a couple of years if it is a long duration program such as PhD, and come back and bring those credits and continue their education here in India and get their Indian degree.
Okay.
Now, the advantage of this is many Indian families, as parents, all of us, we invest our life savings in the education of our kids. But many of them may not be able to send their kids for a full-fledged degree abroad.
Okay.
But they may be able to send their kids for a semester or 2. And this twinning, dual and joint degree programs will help our Indian education, Indian students to briefly go abroad, study and come back.
Okay.
And this will also promote better collaboration between our Indian institutions and higher educational institutions abroad. To give you an example, if there is a joint PhD program between, let's say, JNU and a foreign university, the students will work for 2 years here and 2 years in a foreign university, and at the end of the PhD program, when the students publish, there will be joint publications coming out of this collaboration, and which will also improve our universities in climbing up in the world university rankings, because collaborations and publications in top journals through these collaborative efforts will also has a weightage in terms of climbing up the ladder of the world universities.
Yes.
And the other regulation that we have just announced is the foreign university higher educational universities to enable them to set up the campuses here.
Okay.
We just announced a month ago in September. What is the purpose of this regulation? The sole idea here is to identify top educational institutions in the world across the globe.
Okay.
So what we have said that any university which is in the top 500 global rankings as a university, or in a given discipline, if they are within the top 500 global rankings, they are eligible to come to India and set up a campus.
Okay.
But there are also some highly reputed institutions in Fraunhofer institutions, for example, in Germany. They don't participate in any global rankings, but they are highly reputed in terms of their research output, in terms of their alumni contributions, industry, academia collaboration, and so on. So if they satisfy these conditions also, UGC can consider any of these universities when they apply here.
Okay.
And then there is a process of studying the applications from these institutions. This will be examined by a standing committee formed by UGC. And if they satisfy some of these eligibility conditions, UGC standing committee may invite these applicants, these foreign educational institutions, to make a presentation and understand more deeply about their capabilities and how the educational programs that they are planning to start in India, how they will open up more opportunities for our students After considering all these things, the standing committee will give the recommendations to the UGC, and UGC will examine those recommendations and give what is known as a letter of intent.
Okay.
This letter of intent will give certain time to the foreign university, 2 years time, during which they can set up their campus and let us know that we are ready to start the academic programs. Then UGC will give the green signal to go ahead and start their academic program. So overall, this internationalization of our Indian education through the guidelines provided by NEP 2020 is aimed at making India a global hub for international education, is aimed at providing opportunities for greater collaboration between Indian institutions and the foreign educational institutions, and most importantly, provide greater opportunities for our Indian students to access high quality international education.
Right. So these foreign universities and colleges which will eventually set up campus in India, what kind of course offerings are we looking for from this? I mean, science, technology, engineering, all that is very important.
Right.
Would we also go for humanities and other disciplines?
You see, when these foreign universities come and set up their campuses, I'm sure they will study our Indian educational system,
yes,
and they will see which are the areas in which the students are seeking education, and there are many disciplines which are extremely popular in India.
Yes.
I'm sure the foreign universities will first start the programs in these more popular areas.
Okay.
But even if they start, let's say in engineering, they start a program. Even in our IITs, we have open electives where our students are exposed to humanities, social sciences, languages, and
yes,
so on. So some of this multidisciplinary education will be provided, even if the universities are starting pure engineering or pure science programs. But however, we have left it to the universities to decide what programs they will start, at what level they will start. To begin with, maybe they will start few disciplines in undergraduate, postgraduate level, and over a period of time, they may build it up to doctoral and postdoctoral levels. So we have given complete autonomy to these educational institutions to design their own programs. But we also have said that the quality of education provided in these campuses should be at par with the quality of education provided in the main campus. So therefore, when they appoint the faculty members in the institutions, they also have to use the same parameters that they use, so that highly qualified faculty members are employed here, and they also had to make sure that our students have access to high quality education. So in the process, what happens is the degree that they get here in the Indian campus, it's actually a foreign degree. The students will get, while they are studying in India, they actually get a foreign degree. So therefore, the educational institutions, the foreign educational institutions should ensure that the students should have the same opportunities in the host country as if they have done their degree in that host country. And on our part, we are also saying that the students of these campuses, they don't have to seek any additional equivalence from any other authority in India. They will be considered as any other Indian equivalent degree for educational and employment opportunities.
Are we also open to them having foreign faculty members, or would we prefer them to hire Indians?
You see, one of the questions that has come is, why are you not permitting these foreign university campuses to also offer online degrees? Right? It has become very popular now. Many universities are also giving online degrees. But it is very clear in our mind that when we are inviting these foreign higher educational institutions to set up a campus here, we want to provide that international global feel for our students. So when will that come? That will come if the foreign educational institutions in their campuses, if they admit students globally, not only our Indian students, and they employ the faculty members also globally. In fact, their own main campus faculty may come here, spend a semester or two, and then go back. So therefore, the faculty will be global faculty. The students also will be global faculty. But in addition to that, there is one big advantage that I will see if these campuses come here.
Okay.
Many of our Indians are very well-known professors in these top educational institutions. And if those Indian professors, they want to come here, spend a semester or two, currently there are not many opportunities.
Okay.
We, of course, have some short duration programs. An Indian can come here, give lectures for a week or so, and then go back. But there are short-term arrangements provided by Government of India. But when these foreign university campuses come here, a great Indian professor who is working in the host university, they can come here and work for a semester, and then go back. So this will provide them an opportunity, because it's is an Indian educated Indian faculty member. He must have been an alumni from a local institution. So this professor can go and start better collaborative efforts, collaborative research efforts between our Indian institution and the foreign institution, and it will provide a great opportunity for the Indian faculty also to be here, get connected with his relatives, friends in India, and so on. So I see multiple advantages of making this a real physical environment, not online education. So that's why we said no online education is permitted. It has to be a global campus with global experience, and it has to be a physical campus.
Right. Will there be any regulatory or supervisory process or any checks and balances to ensure that the quality stays what it's supposed to be, and that the purpose for which we have invited them is being served?
Right. We want to make this regulation light but tight.
Okay.
We do not want, as a regulator, in fact, even across the country also, we have been telling the vice-chancellors of all the universities that UGC doesn't want to micromanage the affairs of the universities. We want to give you as much autonomy as possible, and you be responsible for the strategic growth of your own universities. And the same philosophy we are extending to the foreign universities also. We don't want to micromanage. You carry out your educational processes, your administrative processes, as you carry out in your main campus in the host country. But however, we are also saying that every year the foreign higher educational institution should submit to UGC a quality assurance report. And this quality assurance may be done by a third party, as they are doing in their host country. And that report has to be submitted to us so that we know that the quality of education is maintained. Right? And we are also saying that the UGC may come and inspect the facilities and so on, maybe once in a while, just to have that connection with the educational institutions, but not micromanage the campus.
Got it.
Right.
So you have experience of the university system, of the IIT system, of the system in universities abroad. How has that shaped your worldview, and how does it help you in your current role as the chairman of the UGC?
Right. You see, we have these IITs, which are outstanding institutions, right? They have served our country since their inception. The first IIT was established in Kharagpur in 1959, and 1960 IIT Delhi came, and so on. Initially, we established these 5 IITs, and now we have 23 IITs. Later, IIT Guwahati came, and then Roorkee University is converted into IIT Roorkee. So we have these established IITs, and then these up-and-coming IITs. But as a system, IITs have done enormous service to our country, right? But however, IITs have remained as islands of excellence. Now, if you look at the entire higher education, 4.1 crores. In addition to IITs, we also have other institutes of national importance, such as NITs, ISERs, and other national institutions. If you look at the entire higher education student population, only 6% of the students are in these institutions. The remaining 94% of the students are in our 1100 universities and 45,000 colleges. And unless we strengthen the university and college ecosystem, it will be very difficult for us to improve our educational system. So NEP 2020 therefore focuses not only nurturing our existing islands of excellence, but strengthening our university system. So when I moved from IIT Delhi to JNU, that was the first time I was exposed to the university system. And JNU being a great university, I learned many things there. How the university system works. IITs are focused on engineering and technology.
Yes.
Whereas when you go to JNU, it is a multidisciplinary educational system. You have science, you have humanities, you have languages. Of course, during my tenure, we also started School of Engineering. We also started School of Management there. And then when I was in JNU, I became a member of the University Grants Commission.
Okay.
And that provided me an opportunity to actually see how state universities function, how colleges function. And when I started visiting some of these colleges and universities, started interacting with the students, I saw the aspirations, I saw that energy in their eyes. And then I started realizing, even when I was Vice-Chancellor at JNU, that a lot that needs to be done to improve our educational system. For example, today, if you look at our university system, in many state universities, there are large number of faculty vacancies.
I see.
60% to 70% of the vacancies.
I see.
And temporary faculty, contractual faculty are appointed. So if you have such a system, how do you ensure that the research output is enhanced there? How do you ensure that the teacher-student ratio is maintained? So one of our main tasks, therefore, by implementing the NEP 2020 also, is to sensitize the state governments by being in direct and regular contact with them to make sure that the faculty vacancies are filled up. And then we also had to make sure, and this is my realization when I shifted from IIT to the university system, that many universities do not even have an R&D cell to promote the research ecosystem in the universities. And when I joined in JNU, the first year that I did was to establish this R&D cell.
I see.
And the purpose of R&D cell, now of course we have established in 700 universities, nearly 700 universities, through constant efforts of UGC, we have established these R&D cells. The primary goal of these R&D cells is that the research grants are highly competitive. When the funding agencies announce these research schemes, a lot of people apply, and only few applicants succeed. Maybe 20% of the total applicants will ultimately succeed in getting these grants. Now, are our professors and young assistant professors in the university system prepared to be part of this competition? Because nowhere in the world people will give you a huge fund on a platter and say you do the research that you want to do. It's highly competitive. So therefore, the first task of these R&D cells is to train our teachers to write successful project proposals. And once they succeed in the project, once they get these grants, how do they manage this this project? How do they spend this money? That's also a task. Project management also is something that we need to impart to our young faculty members. And then I have done some great research, and this is basic research, and it's worth publishing in a high quality journal. But then before I do that, can I convert this basic research into a prototype? And then can I take a patent and maybe encourage some industry to take this product, this idea from prototype level to a product level? So there is a huge chain of events that need to happen from the writing of the project proposal to finally seeing my ideas as a product in society. So in order to do this capacity building now, these R&D cells are playing a key role. And this is something that came as a realization to me after coming out of the IIT system. Because in IIT systems, we take it as a routine thing that we have an R&D cell which is constantly promoting and encouraging the faculty members to write project proposals and bring funds to the institutions. And such a component is missing. And most importantly, in IITs, we have good industry academia interactions. Now, IIT Delhi itself, for example, we started an M.Tech program in VLSI design.
I see.
You might have heard about VLSI design, which is an important component of chip design.
Yes.
Today, semiconductor technology rules the world, right?
Yes.
And in 1996, we started this program, which is completely industry-sponsored M.Tech program.
Okay.
IIT Delhi doesn't spend a single rupee on this program.
I see.
Now, you can build such kind of successful industry academia collaborations only if we focus on 4 components, which is missing in our university system. So wherever I am going and meeting the vice chancellors, I am urging them, please focus on these 4 components in order to build successful industry academia collaboration, which will then bring you huge amounts of funding, which you can use to build better infrastructure, research infrastructure in your institutions. So what are these 4 components? One of them, which is completely lacking in our university system, is focusing on building shared goals between academia and industry. When I say shared goals, in academia as a professor, I often focus on doing theoretical research, and once I develop some theory or a model, I verify its veracity, and I am always looking for publishing in a top-notch journal. Whereas in industry, they don't look for this kind of publishing in a journal. They want this entire research results to be summarized in bullet points, so that I can use this brief account of this deep research and convert that into a product. So now our goals are different. So how do I work towards creating shared goals between industry and academia? This is the first step our universities and also in industry have to do. The other thing that universities have to understand and also industries have to understand is the cultural difference between academia and industry.
Big difference.
There is a big difference, and there is a cognitive distance, right, between industry and academia. For example, as a professor, I tend to be laid back in my university system. I don't really worry about the deadlines. No, I take my own time to develop a theory, to design an experiment, and to do the experiments and so on. Right? Whereas in industry, there are deadlines. They are chasing deadlines. So how do I merge these cultural differences? How do I put short-term goals in academia, quickly meet these deadlines, pass on that information to the industry so that they can build upon whatever information that is passed on. So these cultural differences have to be bridged. But how do you do that? Unless you and me sit across the table and talk to each other. So the third important component, therefore, is building better communication channels between industry and academia. But all this is our larger objective of implementing NEP 2020 and improving the research ecosystem. For example, let's say as a professor, I want to collaborate with a pharmaceutical industry. And I want to develop a drug in my lab and pass on to the pharmaceutical industry. But I may be not so much aware of the regulatory aspects of the pharma industry. Now this has to be, gap has to be built up. So that is where the communication channels had to be built up, and these cognitive distances have to be remote. And the fourth important component of building better industry academia collaborations is building trust. If you are an industrial collaborator and you come and collaborate with me, I work for a few months and I come up with some good results, you always worry, this professor may go ahead and publish these results, and I may not be able to commercially use that for my products. Now these doubts persist in the minds of the industry. Now how do I build trust? Can I discuss across the table and maybe sign a non-disclosure agreement, and or maybe work out that okay, I have these results, part of these results we can publish, and part of the other results you use it for your commercialization of the results. So right in the beginning, if you can have these kind of agreements, then you are building the trust between both the parties. So I have been telling our university system and some of these things that we learn being part of the IIT system. And as you said, because of the exposure that I am gaining, fortunately, by working with the university system and by being part of the IIT system for nearly 3 decades, both as a student and also as a faculty member, this has provided me fortunately greater insights on how to view the problem and how to design the solutions. And I'm hopeful that with the progress that we are making in implementing the NEP 2020, I have absolutely no doubt that our universities are capable of doing outstanding research, are capable of producing many more students who will go on to become great scientists, great media persons, great policy makers, great corporation builders, and then take India in the right direction so that India will become a leader in the world in the coming years.
Looking forward to it, sir.
Yeah.
Dr. Kumar, we've covered such a wide range of issues. Thank you so much for a very insightful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the podcast.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please join my fast-growing Discord server on which I do monthly exclusive live streams just for the Discord members. And please don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you very much.